Okay, here is our first species that you should be looking out for on both the reflection lakes and the glacier basin trails, and that's American Bistort. Bistorta is Latin for twice twisted, because this plant has twisted-looking roots, although you can't see them, and its old genus name, Polygonum, is Greek for many knees. That name referred to the appearance of the stem, which has many knee-like joints and might remind you of the stems of some grasses. Each stem goes straight up from the base and ends in a little spike with lots of tiny flowers on it. And most of its leaves, which are simple and don't have any fancy features, will be at the base. Leaves that are higher up on the stem will be smaller and thinner. Let's look at some photos. Here are the four phenophases. The way to tell the difference between budding and flowering is that while Bistort is budding, the spike at the end of the stem will look very neat and tidy, with the buds all tightly closed. And once those start to open up and look a little bit more bristly, then you can consider it to be flowering. Now, what is cool about this species is that it's pollinated mostly by flies, and for that reason, instead of having what we would consider a traditional floral scent, it has a very distinct perfume of stinky socks, so it's a fun one to use to prank your hiking buddy. As the plant begins to transition into fruiting, the base of the spike is going to turn reddish, but it can be somewhat challenging to distinguish between the fruiting and seed release phases. So here are some rules of thumb. If the spike itself is looking pretty brown and many of the flowers have dropped, you can consider it to be fruiting. And if you look really closely, you might be able to see some of the fruits themselves, which are the tiniest little three-sided capsules. And once the fruits harden and start to look smooth and shiny brown, and especially if the spike itself seems to have lost some of its volume, then you can consider the plant to be releasing seed. And if there's nothing in the plot but bare-looking spikes left behind, then seed release is done for the season.